Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm Ninja-kun, and today we're gonna go over the guide to get you from zero to hero, from level 1 to full Torment 4, Masterwork, and all the grinds, and how to do it in the most efficient way. Also, make sure to stick around until the end of the video, as I'll give you a couple of quick tips to make your experience a little bit smoother. Step 1, before you jump into the game at all, I want you to go and find yourself a guide that you will follow for the season. Now, unless you're somebody who wants to spend a lot of hours trying to min-max and understand your class, and if you just want to jump in, this is where I assume you'll be, I advise you to find one guide for your specific class and go with it. Now, you can either go on max roll, personal preference for these choices. You can go max roll, and now on max roll, they're really good on guides because they go in and explain to you why guide works, why class works the same way that it should work, what the gear is, the gear progression, and so on and so forth. You get lost into the nitty gritty, but if you don't want to get lost into the nitty gritty and you just want a guide that's simple to follow, I would advise you to then look at Mobalytics. Mobalytics tends to have some of the simplest guides, and it's just very simple. And on top of that, the app tends to be interfacing with your in-game, so you can just be in-game while you're playing around, and you pop it up and you check your Paragon board, your stats, and so on and so forth that you're supposed to be hitting. Now, the other thing that I would tell you is the best way is to find a build that works for you on YouTube. So you look at a player on YouTube. There's a plethora of great content creators out there that will make a guide, explain to you why a guide works, and there you can actually see the gameplay itself and if it actually matches the kind of style you have. So for example, I'm playing Necromancer at the moment. I have to have two builds because the main Bloodwave build for this season is quite slow and it's not quite up to my pace for most of the content. So I had to go and figure out what kind of other build did I want to do. So I had to go for a Blood Surge build for everything else. One important caveat to getting your build at the very beginning of the game is quite fundamental that you try and find a build that is for leveling and has a progression. So at the moment, if I'm looking at this blood build that I have here right now, you can see here's the Blood Surge build, and it has a leveling, a new burst, and a farming endgame path progression. Not all builds are like this, right? But it's quite important that whatever you're going for, so for example, this season, one of the most popular builds is the Bloodwave build. But what you want to be doing is make sure you understand that you need to progress through a build, because if you don't do it correctly and you're just trying to go for the final pit setup, as you're leveling, you're not going to be able to Torment, Pierce, and you're not going to be able to have a good time because you won't have all the Paragon nodes, you won't have Masterwork everything, you won't have the survivability to stay alive, to be able to do the content that you require. And yeah, that's quite important. Step 2, as soon as you log into the game, I want you to go and open up your map and right click onto CERRIGAR's waypoint. Now, if you're on console, the favorite could be something else, but what it does is it allows you to, whenever you're pressing your teleport point to a waypoint, it will automatically go to your favorite, as you can see the icon there, as in teleporting to CERRIGAR. Why is this important? CERRIGAR is the smallest main city that you can get. There's a high condensation of NPCs all around, so within a bounce you can literally get everywhere. There's also the pit, so you're going to be spending a lot of in-game time in the pit. And overall, the only other place that I advise you to maybe think about favorite thing if you have the expansion is the Kuras Bazaar, but this is only if you're running some Undercity. Otherwise, CERRIGAR is the way. Now, after you favorite that, you'll find yourself in Gate Cool. Gate Cool is where your quest is going to start for the season of the witchcraft. Now, what I want you to do is go through the quest as soon as possible. It's going to be really important that you finish every single quest point at every time that it comes up, and that you try to go through those Green Favors collections checkpoints to unlock the next quest, and then to also aim eventually to finish that favor board with the witches. The reason being because at the end you get a Resplendant Spark. So in case you didn't know what a Resplendant Spark is, I'll tell you at the end with one of our tips. Now, in this season, you're quite lucky to be able to level up. You don't have to do a lot of things very quickly, nor to gear up. The main event that you're going to be doing this season are the Green Tides. So instead of doing Hell Tides, you're going to do these seasonal event maps, and I want you to go and run through every single one of the main points for the favors. So this is just like in season 2, where you'll have a map pop up with a lot of events. Season 3 was the same. You're gonna around, you're gonna find these events on the map, you're gonna complete that event, and then you're gonna get experience and also cash. Now, at the cash, then you can also select the gear, which we'll get to in a second, that you're gonna need to level up and gear up much quicker. But the main idea here is do the events on the green tide in between those questing. Now, that is quite important because in the end, as you'll see on the video at the moment, you'll be getting a plethora, a gazillion of gold, materials, gem fragments, and gear and loot. So what you want to do is focus on those events, whisper favors that actually are worth doing. So which one are actually worth doing? Of course, the fugitive is one, but you also want to do the patrol, sometimes even the wisp, depending if they overlap. You can also do the dispel and entangle ones, which are very nice. To cherry it up on top, of course, you get the purge of the rot. That's going to happen as you're clearing the map, and then you can do the shepherd one if you're so inclined. I don't advise you to do any other, but you can also do the seek, the smaller ones like the spell. You can take your time and do it all. Now, the way that I would do it is I will go in and do a favor at a time, and even if the fugitive pops, unless you're wanting to go there because of the fugitive quest at the beginning for the first 60 levels and until you're getting a decent amount of gear, I would just constantly do favors. Favors are going to be so important because every single favor is literally warning you we're playing the game, which is wonderful. And on top of that, you're getting to select amongst 3 choices of what gear you're going to be equipping, or materials, or dungeon entries, and so on and so forth. So this is quite important. Being able to constantly choose what you're going to upgrade next is a great thing, and it's going to constantly reward you with experience on top of everything else. And every cache also has a chance to get more entries or dungeons or root holes or stuff like that. And as you increase the level, that's going to be a wonderful experience. Another thing that I want to talk about is, of course, the season blessing. Season blessings are quite important. As you're leveling up, you're going to want to first, of course, put the experience points here. So smolder ashes, you're going to be able to get 4 for each here, but you're not going to get everything up until the very end, where you're going to get it at level 88. So you're going to have to prioritize. Now, there's one little trick that, in case you didn't know, you can actually reallocate by right-clicking and reallocating points. So what I usually do is I initially just stick everything into experience, and then as I'm going to the purveyor curiosities, I'll remove the points here and I'll place them here. So if I roll some gear and I need some gear, I will get the gear with a higher chance. And otherwise, I would keep it mainly to these 2 initially, and then as you're progressing, the priority for me was first this one, then the Urn of Rot, because of the importance of rot and being able to get those new gems, which are quite strong. And then I did the Urn of Whispers, and then after that I did Masterworking in the last Curiosities, with the fact that whenever I did go to Curiosities, I would just slap on 4 points and I would just use Curiosity. Another thing to be mindful of is the seasonal journey. Now, season journey, this is not necessarily something that is a big emphasis while you're leveling up, but it's something that is worth noticing because in the end, you're going to get the new pet, the new raven, and the new emote for it. But throughout, you're going to get little caches that are going to be even more so rewarding you. Now, this season, I didn't really care for it, and it doesn't really matter, I believe, until you're getting past the point of having done everything. But if you're really planning to get that raven as soon as possible, then I would advise you to also prioritize doing some of the contents that are in here. Remember, you don't have to do all the objectives in here. You just have to do 9 out of the objectives, or a certain amount of objectives, to hit and unlock the rewards and the tier itself. You don't have to complete everything to be able to get the reward here. Now, as you see, as you're progressing through, you're going to level up very quickly because it's going to be a high population of mobs and also of players just running around killing things, and you being in the vicinity in the Greentides is going to help you level up quite quickly. So you're gonna start running into gears that is going to allow you to basically one-shoot everything. So when should you actually swap to a better difficulty? That's something that somebody has asked me on stream quite often. And I advise you to only swap to a better difficulty, so a higher difficulty. Remember, at the moment, you can change difficulty in any main city. CERRIGAR is one of them. And you start initially at normal, and then I would advise you to progress up until Torment, as you're basically just one-shotting everything sneezing at it. So if you're going to hard mode and it's taking you 2-3 hits to kill those elite mobs or the bosses, then do not go and keep there, because the amount of time you'll be wasting for the amount of XP that you'll be getting is just not worth it. Now, another good noticeable thing, if you have the expansion, it's quite important that you keep an eye out on the 2 zones. I think there's 2 zones. I've only ever seen this zone here and this zone here come up in NAHANTU with the Greentides, because NAHANTU has a much higher density population, which means the favors are going to be much quicker to complete, especially the route one and the patrol and the mist one. But also, you're just going to get so much more experience and it'll last for longer. So it's quite important that if you do have the expansion, the first ones that you try and hit are NAHANTU, but do remember that the mob density is quite high, and not everybody has access to NAHANTU, which means that there might be less players in the area. So if you're struggling, make sure to go into the lesser difficulty just in case. Now, another thing that you want to do right at the beginning is go and fetch your mercenary if you have the DLC unlocked. So there are a couple of things about the mercenary. So first off, you'll want to go into the mercenary den. You'll be able to do this without doing the story again, because you'll have to skip the story, but you want to go into there out with of a party, so you don't want to be in a party, and then get a mercenary and hire as a reinforcement another mercenary. There are 4 mercenaries in the game, and all you want to do is just hire them, slap 2 of them on, doesn't really matter at the beginning, and just do the content. And of course, if you're in a party, only the support one is going to show and get experience. But the good reason is because as you're leveling all of them up to the max level, when you restock the supply, you are going to get more and more options based on the levels of all of your mercenaries, and some of this gear is quite good. You can target specific aspects, you can target specific pieces of gear, you can even target specific things that allow you to make your life easier, like dungeons, etc. On top of that, you want to try and do at least once a day the free roll to resupply, because as you saw, as I did this, I got a lot of good materials, and of course some of this stuff is quite good. I've gotten some 3 GAs that were really perfect that I didn't need, that I sold for quite a lot of gold. Now here comes another important tip. Trade if you can on Diablo.trade or whatever website you think that will net you some gold. Gold is really important, and even though in this season you're gonna get quite a lot quite quickly, it is quite important to trade your gear. It is simple, it is easy, it has been streamlined as much as possible. All you want to do is have like a screenshot. For example, for Diablo Trade, a screenshot app allows you to select a specific area, slap it on to a folder in your computer, and upload it onto Diablo Trade. You're gonna have to gimmick something else if you're on console, but either way, it's really worth doing, because the amount of gear that you would think, oh, nobody's gonna buy, but you can sell for 100 million, 200 million, 500 million, and all adds up. Now, this is going to slow you down significantly. At the beginning of every season, this is what I do, is I take gear that I look at and I know the top builds of the classes. Okay, I've been trading for a while, so I know quite well how to navigate the seas of this. And if you're interested, let me know in the comments, let me know, and I'll make it a guide to maybe trading a bit better, make it a bit more gold on these kind of websites. But the main idea is sell everything, and at the beginning you're selling even stuff that is non-GA, so non-greater affix. This means that it doesn't matter that it doesn't have a greater affix. You look at the stats, does it have 3 of the stats that a popular build has? Slap it on. Now, as the season progresses, and we're only a couple of weeks into the season now, then you'll stop selling the stuff that is non-greater affix, and you're going to want to start selling the stuff that is greater affix. And as I said, the thing you do is you screenshot it like this. I would screenshot it, select the area, upload it to Diablo.trade, and then go on, sell it. Now, you'll be surprised what people will buy. I've had people buy billions of items that I thought were completely useless. So make sure to do that It does slow you down a little bit, but it in the long run allows you and enables you to buy the gear pieces that you need. Now, if you're not interested in trading whatsoever, that's fine with me, and that's fine with you. That's your game style, that's fine. But I still advise you to try and do it a little bit because it's gonna skyrocket and speed run you a lot quicker. So as we've been talking, and as you've probably been progressing through, when you get through the experience, you're gonna hit level 60 in less than a day. You're gonna be really quickly, and I'd say 8 hours, you'll be on a leisurely pace to level 60. And as you're progressing, you're gonna want to, as I said, continuously upgrade your gear. You're not really caring. You're gonna be following your guide. You're gonna be looking for those aspects and kind of base stats, but you're gonna be changing it so quickly. Once you hit level 60, you're gonna start seeing how you can progress onto the next tier. So tier 1 of Torment, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4. Now, the way that is best done is to get yourself a gear piece that has at least 2 of the stats that your build needs. So if, for example, my rank here will need a critical strike chance, intelligence, and maximum life, I will look for a non-GA, so non-greater affix, non-legendary ascendant rank that will have either of 2 of these in any combination. It could be max life, critical strike chance, could be int max life, could be int critical strike chance. And what you do is you're gonna take the piece, whatever the piece may be, I'm gonna do it with a piece of gear that I'm not gonna sell, right? So I'm gonna show you here. I just open my caches. Let's say I have a helm here, okay? I have an L, int maximum life armor. I don't need both defensives on mine. Let's say I want to keep maximum life. So what I'll do is I'll slap it onto the occultist in any town, and then I'll look for the one affix that I want. The affixes are these little 3 stats at the very beginning of every item. Every item has at least 3 uniques. They have 4. Now, what ends up happening when you do this is you're going to lose the ability to reroll any of the other 3 once you choose which one you want to lose. So let's say I want to keep maximum life, then I'm going to select armor. I want to keep intelligence, and I'm going to check before you roll. Always check if the piece of gear that you're going to roll and the stat specific is actually going to give you the thing that you need for your build. Because, for example, you can't have critical strike damage, critical strike chance, and lucky hit all in one item, or critical strike damage overpower, because you can only have one of those on a specific piece of gear. So it's always important to check. The other tip that I'll give you is the lower you go into this list, the harder it is to roll for these items. Now, I'll explain. You'll see real quick. Now, I'm going to roll for this. Let's say I want to try and get to Skeleton Warrior Mastery. Realistically, it's going to be really hard to hit that, and I'm probably going to hit anything in this first area. So I'm going to enchant. It's going to cost you some materials as the gear goes up in levels, and as you hit especially greater affixed items, it's going to be more and more expensive. But I'm just going to roll this. It's going to tell you will not be able to cancel the enchanting action. You will only be able to re-roll this stat. And also, if you're re-rolling a greater affix, let's say, for example, in this glove, I don't need the critical strike chance anymore. I'm going to re-roll that. Your roll is never ever going to be a greater affix. The greater affix only drops and will never be rolled into. So your item will effectively become a 1G item once you roll the critical strike chance. So always keep those in mind. So I'm going to roll it. I'm going to accept. Okay. And you can accept either no change or to change it again. So for example, okay, I'll upgrade to 155 armor. And now I can only roll that little blue icon affix. I can't roll any of the other ones, as you can see. And again, I just hit armor. So it's going to take you quite a while to hit these. And especially on certain items that are quite hard to get. Like, for example, these amulets, to try and get the scales at the bottom, they're really hard to get. And for example, to get this Ties of Blood, I think I spent 1 billion gold just to try and hit that one. And the Ties of Blood is at the bottom. So I'll show you. It's one of the scales at the bottom, right? So the lower you go, the harder it is to get. Cooldown reduction I saw quite a few times. Ties of Blood also once in a billion gold. So as you're going to progress, you're going to have a lot of pieces that are going to be 2 stats and 1 roll. 2 stats and 1 roll. And most builds, as you're progressing, will have a leveling and no Ubers kind of situation, where it's going to allow you to see the pieces of gear that you're going to need there is just the legendary pieces of gear. And as I said, with the fact that you're going to get a lot of favor caches, you're going to be fine, because all you're going to have to do is like, oh, I need gloves from now on because I've got everything else. So I'm going to pick and cherry pick, and you got to get greater caches with gloves and normal caches with gloves. Don't cherry pick too much, just get them. You're going to get them, and it's going to be great. Or alternatively, you're going to get whatever other piece, maybe some boots or whatever that you don't need, sell it, and then you can buy the gloves, etc. Now, you've got yourself ready. You probably are doing Torment 1. Depending on the classes, you could push Torment 2 or Torment 3 with this, at least to like end of Torment 2, beginning of Torment 3, but I haven't done this. Just that, for example, for me, Necromancer, I started with the Summoner, the Shadow Summoner, the Soul Rift one, and then I was basically, by this point, I was already easily prancing through Torment 2 without having invested any gear whatsoever, and my base gear was quite simple. And I'd gotten maybe like one crappy GA, and I kept that one, and so on and so forth. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to do is slap on some tempers. While you're leveling, you're going to get a lot of tempers. Tempers are this simple thing that before you can masterwork, which is, as you can see, the 12 out of 12 masterworking, which upgrades all the stats that is on a gear, except for the aspect. Before you masterwork, you're going to have to temper your item. So if right now you take this helm, I can have, at the bottom, it says 5 out of 5 tempers. So you're going to want to temper this, and as you'll be progressing, your tempers are not going to be legendary. They're going to be either rare or magic. It doesn't matter. You're not going to be doing this on like a GI item that you really need. You're not going to be putting a rare or a magic one. If you have a great item that you found, you wait until you drop the specific legendary temper manual, and then you're going to apply it. But for everything else, temper away at this point. Why? Because it really does increase the damage quite significantly. So for example, for my build, if you have damage while fortified on the gloves, it's 174% damage, right? Upgraded and all that. So even as a base stat, it's a great upgrade, and it's gonna make you get into the next step, to get into Torment 2. Now, caveat, remember, not all classes are born equally in every season. So you're gonna have certain seasons where I, as a Necromancer, like this season, I could easily breeze through and reach Torment 3 and 4 with very simple gear, whereas classes like Sorcerer or Rogue had to have a lot better gear to be able to reach Torment. So it all depends on the build you're following, because even amongst Necromancers, there's different builds, and some are better than others. So, you know, your mileage might vary. Another thing you'll be doing once you hit level 60 is you're going to have access to your Paragon board. Now, whenever you're following a guide, you're looking at a Paragon board, you're like, oh my God, this looks confusing. What do I do first? So first, understand the grasp of glyphs. Glyphs have a stat at the bottom. You can see here is 54 out of 25 dexterity purchased in range. So to be able to enable a glyph, you need to have a certain amount of stats required by the glyph within the area. And as it reaches level 15, the area increases. First, when you're looking at something like this and you're going through it and you're going even further into the tree, the first thing you prioritize are the legendary nodes. Legendary nodes enable builds. So when I'm looking at a build and I'm saying, okay, let's say, for example, this one is a bit further away, and I'm looking at, I've arrived here, I've completed this, and I have some points, like I have 30 points. Where do I put them? First, I would path directly, without even getting these, directly to the legendary node. That is important as they enable a lot of builds, and they are a humongous increase. The second thing you want to do is hit every single Paragon node that allows you to enable a glyph. So once you get into the glyph area, what you want to do is make sure that you have all the items that are within the glyph. So for example, if I'm following the Paragon board here, it shows you right here that I'm max. This tree here, which is not the same tree that I have, for example, shows you right here, all the red are the ones that are going to be enabling this one, right? So because this one needs intelligence. So anything that grants you intelligence, not this one, not that one, not that one, but this one, that one, etc. These all grant you intelligence to enable that glyph. Without these stats, the glyph is not online. So the second thing you want to do is pass through, and then once you hit the range, the radius of the glyph itself, then you want to hit everything within the glyph. So again, forego all these, forego that. So the way that I would do it here is, okay, I've hit here, then I'll go up here, and then I'll go this way, that way, that way, that way, and done. That's it. That's as simple as that. Do not go for the extra ones. Like, for example, here, if to get to here, like the way that I did it at the beginning was I path like that, and then I path up here, and then I got everything in this area, right? But I didn't go all the way down here, and I didn't go all the way up here, right? So I just hit everything in the area, and then I moved on to the next board. So by now, you're getting to a point where you're stably having some gear. You're going to be dropping more and more gear. And again, all you want to do up until this point is keep doing the overworld. The overworld being the map. It's non-instance. Keep farming. You're going to get to this point quite quickly. I got to this point with my Necro, I think in 3 days gameplay, I was already like in Torment 4. Because all you have to do is just keep playing this event. It's quite simple this season. Now, while you're getting this event, at one point, you're going to be dropping these items that are called the Root Hole Whispering Wood. And also, you're going to be dropping Infernal Compasses. And you're also be dropping Tributes if you have the expansion. Now, my advice for this season is, number 1, Infernal Hordes are harder to find and to drop. I've farmed quite a bit of the pit. I have unlocked last night level 137 of the pit, and I have seen maybe 1 drop from a pit. That's it. I've done a few, and we also boost a lot of people and help a lot of people on the channel and Twitch, and I've not seen a lot this season compared to other seasons. And the same thing happens in the favors on the Greentides. So the most, they usually come from the chest of dungeon entry. This is where you find them, or from the Whispering Caches, which are the 2 places that you can get them. And the same thing happens for root holes. Root holes, you can randomly kind of get them from any favor, but the chest of Whispering Caches, which are opening with a Whispering Key, you'll see them on the map. You're gonna have a little chain icon on top of them. You open with a key. They're quite easy to get. They only cost 10 obols at any vendor or purveyor of curiosities. And once you start doing some hits, you're gonna level up quite quickly and get them quite quickly. So you're not gonna need to struggle too much to get them. So keep these and do not waste them level. And same thing for the root holes. Do not waste them at low level. And the same thing for tributes. All right. So you want to hold off until you get to a comfortable point where you're clearing Torment 4. Okay. You know, root holes are not hard, and neither is the city, the Undercity. Okay. They are very, very good. And root holes, especially, they are your source for greater affix items in general. You're going to hop in, you're going to open a lot of root holes and nodes, and you're going to get a lot of greater affixes. So you always want to prioritize minor and bigger rewards, and also another node to get an extra chest. Of course, if you're wanting just greater affix and better rewards, that would be great. Then just go for the minor rewards and major rewards. You can stack them up. There's only 2 choices per round, and that's it. On top of that, in there, you're also going to get a lot of drops of Whisper, which then you're going to start to be able to farm those fugitive heads that you're going to need for those jewels. But don't do it ahead of time, because if you're wiping and you do it in Torment 1 or 2, it's nearly not worth it because you don't drop a lot of them. Okay, this is the thing. You're gonna think, okay, I'm just gonna do it, but you don't get a lot of them throughout, and you don't want to spend your whole time once you reach Torment 4 stuck into Greentides all the time. You want to kind of move out of Greentides and maybe do them occasionally to stock up on things, not to constantly be there, because you're going to be spending the initial part in Greentides. Now, the other question could be, when do I start doing pits? Pits, I only leave them this season until I'm able to comfortably farm Torment 4. Once I started farming Torment 4, okay, then I started going up in pits. Why? Because that's when you can level up your glyphs, and that's when you actually need to level up your glyphs. Because once you start Torment 4, you can look at it and say, okay, I'm going to easily go and do pits. Now, you can definitely do it early. You can start, with your pits initially. The only problem is that this season, you're going to need the entries, the Artificer's Stones, and they actually only drop from Greentides. So they're not like previous seasons given to you once you complete a pit anymore. So my advice is, because of the effectiveness of speed and of leveling, and also effectiveness of gearing up in Greentides this season, I really wouldn't care too much until you need to start unlocking Torment 4 or Torment 2. And then you can start doing them as needed to start upgrading your glyphs to level 15. You're going to have your gear, the 2 base stats and reroll stat. You're going to be able to have a little bit of tempers, and you're going to be able to go through them, slowly build up those level 15s, and that's going to boost your damage even more so. So by now, you're going to have your gears done. You're going to be basically into your Torment 4. You're going to have most of your glyphs level 15, and you're going to be looking at what do I do next. Now is the time to start looking up party up. Now, please know that I haven't told you to enter Infernal Hordes. Infernal Hordes you want to do when you can clearly destroy them as quickly as possible in Torment 4. The reason being is they are even harder to find this season than in any other season. Even in Helltides, the pits barely drop them. So this is the main best source of Obdicite. Do not go for the option of gear in there anymore, because the gear is, again, root holes and everywhere else. Do not go for that one. Go for the Obdicite. You're going to need so much Obdicite, especially if you want to hit the triple masterwork on certain items. It can go anywhere between 50,000 Obdicite to 100,000 Obdicite if you get really unlucky. Of course, if you're only caring to put everything to 12 out of 12 masterwork, that's not a problem. So do not do this until you can comfortably farm. What you're going to want to do to start masterworking your item is, once you get comfortable, you're doing Torment 4, you have some glyphs level 15, then that's when you do the tribute or refinements and any other tributes, especially the rune ones. So if you don't have access to this, unfortunately, you're gonna be in for a bit more of a grind, but the tributes are really effective. And this is about the same time that I'd advise you to start going on a Discord. You go on the Sanctuary Discord. I'm going to leave a link in the bottom below. This is the Discord where you can look for group, even if you're not a social person like myself. I'm autistic, I'm not really super social, but you just queue up with somebody else, they add you up, you add someone else up, and really quickly you smash out something. Alternatively, you have the find a party functionality in game if you don't want to use alternative third-party Discord. This is opened by Shift B on the keyboard. I don't know what it is on console, but you can definitely find people to do content with. And this is when you're going to start slowly racking up Obdicite with the refinement. But alternatively, I would advise you to only use Infernal Horde Compasses 6s, or try and find people who can help you do 8s. But I would keep 10s at least for when you're comfortably destroying them, because otherwise you're just going to be wasting them the potential to upgrade more and more gear. Now you started upgrading and masterworking your gear. Masterworking is fairly simple. Remember, you need to have the tempers on your gear, and then you just go here and you start masterworking. You look at whatever stat you're going to want to get for your next step, and you can see certain guys have things in orange, things in yellow, things in blue. Things in blue are the first hit of a masterwork. So whenever you masterwork to 4, one of your random affixes gets a 25% increase, and everything else is a 5% increase, and that's a blue. If you get 2 hits, it's a yellow, and if you get 3 hits on the same one, it's an orange. So it's really hard. As I said, it's between 50,000 to 100,000 of the site, if you're lucky, to be able to masterwork something. 6 out of 12, and it's costing me 1,641 right now. And then as I'm upgrading and going further up and further up, it's going to cost more and more for me to be able to masterwork further and farther. As you can see here, now it's 1,400, and I'm going to hit this one right now, hoping to hit the Tides of Blood. I'm going to do the animation. I can skip it, but I'm just going to show you. And I got intelligence. That's not what I wanted, so I'm going to want to probably re-roll again, right? But this is something that you don't do at the beginning, right? This is something that you do at the end game. So you, at the beginning, you just care to hit the first, okay, masterwork on blue. It's going to be easy because once you re-roll this thing, it goes down to 10. So now I'm going to have to try and hit the Tides of Blood again. So I'm going to skip, and then I get Tides of Blood. I got really lucky. So now I'm going to try and just keep it like that for now. And I'm going to get everything to hit my first masterwork of blue on every piece of gear. So if my I needed Tides of Blood, that's good. If my ring needed another stat, I will try to hit the blue on that and then reroll. That's fairly cheap at the beginning. And I'll try and do everything to 1. And then the next step is, as you're upgrading and you're starting to do more and more hordes and more tributes, that's when you start getting to 2. So everything is at 2. So that's going to be 8 out of 8. Then you're going to get to 3. And then the pathing for Masterworking to get to Endgame is going to be you have everything at 3 that you need, and then you start rolling the pieces of gear that you need to go for those 2 masterwork hits, or even 3s if you have a lot of them. So this is the path progression, and this only happens, I advise you, from Torment 4, the beginning to Torment 4 really heavily. And this is also when you start having your GAs drop, you're going to have your more perfect items, you're going to have to trade for these items, and that's a great thing. So we quickly hit on runes. Runes at the moment, they don't drop as good, the legendary ones, as you would for the other ones. Runes are really good for creating mythic gear, and in general also for enabling certain builds. You can slot runes and combinations on your gear, and also again, runes are only a thing that you can have access to if you have the expansion, rule number 1. And you can also transform the runes into mythic uniques by having 2 resplendent sparks, and then combination of 6 legendary runes, 6 magic runes, and 6 rare runes. And these are a combination of 6 specific ones. You can of course upgrade randomly certain runes onto other runes, but I wouldn't advise you to do that. This is very end game. You don't really care for this until you start having a lot better gear, or you get very lucky. So don't worry about it. But the idea is runes are going to be really important, especially for enabling some builds. So the best way to do it, unfortunately, is to do the tributes of harmony. So the tributes of harmony are going to allow you to drop runes, especially in greater quantity. And alternatively, they tend to drop the legendary ones more often if you're doing torment boss. Now, by the time you're doing torment, it might be that depending on your build and your class, in Torment 4, you can already one-shot bosses. Now, that's something else that you can look into. One-shotting bosses is a really good thing. You're going to get showered with a lot of materials for killing bosses as you're leveling up. And all of these are going to be great because Torment bosses have a great chance to drop mythic items and, of course, the uniques that you need. Now, you can get a party going even before you can one-shot them and use some of these, again, the party finder, or within the Sanctuary Discord. You can find people always looking for kills. You just go into the party and you go to a specific boss. Let's say I want to go to the Beast in the Eyes because I need some pieces from the Beast in the Eyes. And this is where you can start looking at what specific uniques drop where. And I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. Boss loot sheet table, and in here all I do is like, oh, I want to know where Casimirs drop, search for Casimir. Oop, it's a Lord Zer. Okay, now I know I need to go farm Lord Zer to get my Casimirs. It's as simple as that. But do make sure to try and hold on until Torment before you go to do bosses. And again, as I said, there's a lot of people one-shotting them. I was already one-shotting them, or almost one-shotting them, soloing them without problems. With my build that we were discussing, I didn't need the blood weight to be able to destroy them. Again, the results might vary depending on the class, and within the class depending on the build that you choose. So choose carefully and wisely. So by now you're gonna have some uniques, you're gonna have your gear geared up, you're gonna start having some GAs, you're gonna start rolling for it, you'll have them upgraded. So slowly you're gonna have a build going. Now you can keep farming as you get more comfortable. You can farm pits. If you struggle with farming pets, you can always find groups that help you. We do that every day. We help people on our Twitch and our community to just for free help you level up and gear up, no problem. But if not, you can always find a kind soul on Sanctuary if you're struggling for whatever reason. Once you start getting to this point, that's when you want to start looking at getting your last resplendent sparks. Now, sparks, as we discussed before, are the currency that allows you to craft mythic gear. You can craft them via 2 methods. If you have the expansion, you can do it at the jeweler, or if you don't have the expansion, you can forge equipment at a blacksmith by randomly rolling a mythic unique cache. So I can do this right now. I can open a cache. It costs me 50 million gold and 2 resplendent sparks. I will not know what I get in here. I'm just going to randomly click on it. I'm going to get a chest. Voila, it's the Shroud of False Death. It's not the one that I need, so I'm going to have to break it down. But this is one way to do it. But I don't advise you to necessarily do it with your first resplendent sparks, because at the beginning, you're not going to get a lot. You're going to get 1 from killing Lilith, which is what we're getting at. The other one is, as we described, when you complete the Coven's favor. So as you can see here at the end, Resplendent Coven Crate. This one at the end gives you 1 Resplendant Spark. Now, as we hit upon Torment 4 or Torment 1, you can start clearing Lilith. Now, if you're good enough at Torment 1 with your build and you've done Lilith before, then you know what to do. You go to Torment 1, you have your gear, you go to Lilith in Neves here, and you're going to kill her. And the first kill of the season is going to provide you with 1 Resist Spark. This season there was a bug, but won't get into it. The problem is Lilith bugs a lot. To be able to kill her easily, you just want to have a one-shot, one-tap build, and she tends to bug a lot. If you've not done her before, it is easier to try and find someone who can do her for you. You just hop in party. We do that a lot. I just go in, I kill Lilith, and you get the spark. There's a lot of people doing that. And of course, if you're looking for it and you have a lot of gold saved up, you can also buy the kill for you. That gives you a Resplendant Spark. So between the Common's Favor and this one, you're going to have your first 2 sparks. And this is going to allow you to basically craft, if possible, save up and craft and do your first mythic. If you're not the kind of person who cares about mythics, then no problem. But this is the best way to actually do it, bar none, because the alternative is, as you saw here, is to find a mythic that you don't need, break it down, so salvage it at a blacksmith, not sell it, salvage it as I just did, and then you're gonna get 1 Resplendent Spark per mythic. And then, of course, rinse and repeat. Now, if you get into the point where you can constantly farm Torment bosses, then that's the best place to get lots of mythics. All Torment bosses have a higher chance increase to get mythic drops, but the best ones are Duriel and Andariel. So Duriel that drops here, right? The Gaping Crevasse, and Andariel that gets here at the Hangman's Hole. Realistically, most people just do Duriel because you can just one-shot him without doing any phases. Andariel, even if you have the ability to one-shot Andariel, she'll still do a phase, and people tend to be a bit annoyed by it. So for Duriel, you're gonna need some Mucus Slick eggs and some Shards of Agony, as you can see here. And for Andariel, gonna need a Cushion Doll and Shackles. And make sure to check the description because it does tell you requires 2 and requires 2. You're gonna need 2 of each for 1 kill. And yeah, these have the highest chance of dropping mythics in Torment 4. Again, all bosses have a chance to drop this. It doesn't matter. It's just that Duriel and Andariel have a higher chance, so you'll see a lot of people farming those bosses constantly. And once you get to Torment 4, really the world's your oyster. You can kind of go where you need it, if you need more glyphs and so on and so forth. Now we're getting to the tips, people. The best place to drop glyphs is the overworld. So again, high density Torment is the best place to drop glyphs and tempers, and alternatively bosses. But you know, when you're gonna be getting to the need of dropping glyphs, you're not gonna be doing a lot of Torment bosses unless you're being carried. But the main idea is tempers and glyphs are gonna drop in highly populated areas, the best ones being NAHANTU. Now, if you're looking to optimize and speed up your career path throughout the season, the best way to do it is with these following tips. First and foremost, I always look at whatever build I'll need, and then I'll favorite every single aspect that I might like. So if I go down here, you can see that I can click on it, and then with space, I can mark as favorite. This puts them here. The other thing that you can do is whenever you go to an occultist, in case you didn't know, and you want to see whatever enchantments you already have equipped and select amongst them, you can do this, which is equip. For some reason, it kind of bugs here. I always have this one, but it doesn't matter. But it will show you which ones you have equipped. By hovering over it, it will show you which item has it equipped. And that way you'll know if you've dropped a new, let's say I need a new Vehement and it's going to be the max one, or Ultimate Shadow, so on and so forth. All I have to do, because you're destroying a lot of gear, you're salvaging a lot of gear, all you have to do is just go here and say like, oh, okay, I just got a new Vehement, that's the max one, or I just got a new one of the Ultimate Shadow. So you're going to know right away if there's an upgrade or not, without having to constantly go like, okay, which gear is this? Oh, which gear is that? Do I have an upgrade for it? Do I have an upgrade? No, I don't. So this is going to be a quick way. The caveat to gear dropping, and especially in this season, I would still pick up most gear up until you get to Torment 4, and you don't care anymore for low rolls. So and it's quite important, and this is a great tip, is to pick up all the gear. I know a lot of streamers and a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just pick up GAs, but that's because we got to a point where we don't need that gear anymore. You're going to want to pick up everything on the ground that you can, especially those hard to get pieces. So for example, to this day, I'm still picking up normal legendary, non-ancestral amulets whenever I see them drop on the floor, because they might have the ties of blood and coalesce blood together, and it might sell for a pretty penny, or because, you know, in general, you might need a piece of gear. So pick them up until you get to a point where you just don't care anymore. And then, of course, you also want to do that for the aspects, because aspecting is quite important, as you'll know in game. So be able to get aspects, level them up. It's going to be easier this season. You go to the blacksmith, you salvage all items that you don't need, you're going to level up your aspects. Now, there's a way to get aspects, but this is for your alt as well. You can forge equipment and get blacksmith caches, and you know, it costs a bit, 1,000,000 gold. So this is something you do after, as when you go for an alt, you get like 60, 50, I don't know, all of them on the alt, and then you open them up. You have a small chance of getting mythics here. It has happened on stream. One of our friends got it, but realistically, you're mainly doing this for aspects. There's some GAs, but they're not the best places just to get you the aspect pool, because right now, if I go to sorcerer, I don't have a lot of aspects I'll need, because necromancer drops specific aspects, sorcerer drops the other ones that are very class specific. Another very important tip that I can give you is pop those potions and your instances as soon as possible. I cannot stress that enough. It is so important. You're gonna get some potions as soon as you complete the first quest, so that's fine. And that's gonna be basically the elixirs, a level 10, and then you're gonna upgrade a level 20, and then next upgrade is gonna be a level 40. So you're gonna get them throughout, but once you unlock level 50, that's where you're gonna get the better elixirs. And then on top of that, you're also going to get instances at level 50. That's what you're going to want to stack up, and as soon as possible, because this season is quite easy to make them. Put all 3 of them, because you can put 3 instances of the 3 different kinds that you've seen in the menus here. So you can have one that's resistances, one that's defenses, and one that's core stats. As I've just popped here, there's 3 of them, and that's 5% increased experience each. And then on top of that, you can also place the potion, and of course, you can also place the Broad of Whispers if you're doing any of the content that allows you to get the heads. Another great thing that you want to do from the beginning is to customize your will menu. Now at the moment, you can see I have here the usual one, but when I go down, I also have this one right here. So to customize it, all you have to do is click customize. You go into the potion area, and then you're gonna go and set which ones you actually want of these items. You're gonna say, I want a Song on the Mountain on this menu. I'm gonna put it here, and voila, save the changes. Always make sure to save the changes. I forget that to do that sometimes, it's quite annoying. And now I have it here. So all I have to do is the press of a button, 2 buttons actually, and then it gets me to the wheel that I need to get to. And that's really, really simple. So whenever I'm like killing like a gazillion mobs and there's a huge tide and all this stuff, and I'm paying attention, all I have to do is just do that, click on that, and it's gonna open it up, rather than go open up, try and find which one is it. Oh, okay, is it this? Yeah, okay, it's that one. Right click on it, and in the meantime, you've died. So save yourself some time. So one of the other very important tips that I can give you is, as you are leveling up and as you are progressing and as you get to Torment 1, what you want to also start doing is look at your build, and you want to start seeing how you can get more of the resistances up and armor up. Now, why are armor and resistances important? Because they are required to be able for you to survive in content. So if I were to lose my armor, I'd be okay-ish, because my build works off of fortifying and barrier, which is basically I get extra layers of HP and defensives. So the mobs have to get through that before I die necessarily, and there's ways for my build to get more HP as I run around. I get blood globules, but not all builds have that level of survivability built into it. And I find that a few people have asked quite on stream, like I follow this guide, and I get to a point where I'm like, I've done everything and I just die and I can't push Torment 4. So if you've covered all the basics that we covered here, so you've rolled the right affixes, you have the right tempers, you start a masterwork and then slowly build the masterwork, and you've done the glyphs at the right time, in the right way, then the only thing that I can say is make sure that you're not going for just the end game build do all. Because if I were to go from the beginning for this final pit setup 150 right here, right now, instead of the starter build, I'm not gonna have a good time because this is a very specific build for very specific content. Now I know that it's cool to have the build that does it all, but the build that does it all is not necessarily good for you at the beginning. You have to remember that there are certain stats that you can always just sacrifice to be able to get the defenses. So for example, on my boots, usually my boots will require me to have max HP because it's extra survivability and just helps the build. But what I like to have here instead is the resistance to all elements. So I still have the movement speed, I have the intelligence, but instead of having armor or HP, I get the armor through my incenses and also my gems. And realistically, and of course the rest of the build, but realistically, I strive to get my resistances up. Why is it important to get resistances first? You can have like 300 armor and still survive with full resistances. Resistances are what keeps you alive because in higher level content you have elite. Elite mobs do damage based on element. So shadow poison is super strong, lightning is super strong, cold is annoying, fire is annoying, and shadow can be really strong if you get those little unlucky and you get the little rituals on the floor that explode. So but poison is the worst of it because even if you're capped, you can still stay in it and it will just destroy your HP. So I'm over capped between my Paragon boards, between all the gear that I have and all the jewels and everything. So this is how you get it. So it's really important. Now, if you're pushing for it at the beginning, don't care about the gems from the witch season. Just go for the gems that are the grand diamonds or the diamonds in general. They give you extra resistances. Gems, and I go for diamond. You can see the grand diamond gives me 12% resistance on all elements if I put it on jewelry. So you would stick 3 in here. And of course, if you can't do grand diamond, you can do royal diamond. You get the 8. But if you manage to craft the grand diamonds, then that's a wonderful thing because the grand diamonds will then give you an extra 12% overall with that. And it's quite significant. And also, make a caveat to remember that as you increase the difficulty, your stats will be debuffed farther and farther. So I've swapped now to Torment 1, and now my armor has gone up because there is a farther debuff as I go up in the layers of the Torment. So now I swapped to Torment 2, and my armor has dropped significantly. Torment 3 dropped some more. And as well, this will happen to your resistances. I'm over capped, so that's not a problem for me, but you will notice it for resistances as well. So make sure that you hit those basics. Is quite important. So the way that you do it is by looking at your gear and understanding what pieces, what affixes you do not need. So for example, maximum life is great. You wonderful, gives you survivability, but perhaps as I'm leveling up, intelligence is not necessary because it won't give you as much survivability as it might. So maybe I can swap intelligence for armor. Same thing here, like perhaps intelligence is not great. I'll either go for HP or I'll go for armor. HP is quite a good defending cat significantly in pits as well. So once you start having the resistances and the armors, I would go first resistances, HP, and then armor. Of course, you try and find the balance of the 3. So you'll try and figure out what your build doesn't necessarily need as you level up. And then, of course, once you get to the end and you have the final setup or the pit pushing set, whatever the setup is that you're following, then you're going to be looking at finding and hitting those specific stats on the specific pieces of gear, because then you building a whole work together with the Paragon board and so forth. Okay, and the last step, which is kind of redundant, but not really. In case you didn't know, there is in the Discord of Sanctuary, there's a SC, so softcore, looking for group 3 carries. 3 carries here, you can just say, hey, I don't want to go through the level experience again for my ult. Although I do advise you for the first character to not be boosted so you can experience the season and understand the mechanics. If you've done it, let's say you've already got like 4 characters or 2 characters and you can BRs, you cannot come to the Discord and you can see here people are looking for services for free. And you can get, let's say you have mats for torment bosses, but you can't kill them just yet. Or you have mats for like a horde and you can't do a horde just yet. Great, there's a lot of people that need it. And what you do is most of them, they'll be like, okay, you use your materials, I'll kill them for you. I get the advantage because I get whatever I drop on my side and what I need from my side, and you get yours because I carry you. So this is a great little place to go. Again, this is under the soft core season for me. As you get into this, and there's quite a lot of people, and on top of that, there's people like me who actually just give you everything for free. So you look for like somebody saying, hey, I'm running everything for free, including my materials. You want to hop on board, you might get lucky. So that's it. Alternatively, if you need a lot of help, have questions, anything like that, make sure to check us when we're live on Twitch, because we're always live every day. And yeah, ask questions, whatever you want help, you want to hop on board on our raid boss killing trains, make sure to just join us and check us out. And I hope this has been very instructional, not too long. I hope your experience is going to be a fun one. This season is so great and we're having so much fun. I wish you all the best. And if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more of this kind of content. If you didn't like it, or if you think I missed anything, let me know in the comments below. What do you think I could have added and what did I miss? And yeah, I tried to give you a whole thing. Hope you enjoyed it. Be good, be kind, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.